My name is Getui. I teach here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I'm glad to participate in activities for this year's World Women's Day, whose theme is Gender Equality for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Gender equality, or what I would rather call gender equity, implies that the place and role of men and women is important and valuable in the society. I keep quoting my friend from Ghana, Masi Amba Uduyoye, who says in society we need men and women just like a bird to fly needs two wings, the left wing and the right wing. With regard to sustainable tomorrow, it implies that tomorrow could be at risk and needs to be taken care of. So in other words, men and women need to work together for a sustainable tomorrow. But I also want to add that there is no tomorrow without today, and there is no tomorrow without now. So what we do today and what we do now has a bearing on sustainability for tomorrow. There are many approaches and paths that men and women could apply towards ensuring a good or sustainable now that can translate to a sustainable tomorrow. This could be probably having a family. It is a way of sustaining tomorrow because we need people. It could be to invest in science and technology. Oh my, there is so much speed with regard to science and technology. You will buy an item today and tomorrow it's obsolete. So maybe we could invest in such things. We could even invest in infrastructure. Maybe you want to build a house, or you want to have material things that can sustain you in the days to come. But for today, I just want to take one approach, and that is how can we have gender equality or gender equity for a sustainable tomorrow. And one way I want to propose is that we can do this through faith. This can be controversial. Which faith are we talking about? Is it Christian? Is it African tradition? Is it Islam? But I want to look at it from a very general perspective, probably with a bigger leaning on Christianity. And in Kenya, for example, about 82% of us claim or are counted as Christian. So what is faith? Faith is complete trust and confidence in God, or in a supreme being, or that power that we think is greater than ourselves. It's a conviction about the reality of this supreme being or of this greater power than ourselves. In many faith traditions, there is recognition of a creator, that all of us are created in the image of God. And the Bible, for those of us who are Christian, says that God created man and woman in his own image. In one of my classes with the students, there was a discussion, why did God create man before woman? And it was very interesting. Just a light moment that God created the woman second because you start with a sketch if you are an artist, or if you are writing a paper, an article, the academics, you start with a draft, and then you get the final copy. You could say that is on a light note. When the girls said this in class, the boys came in and said, no, when you are doing a photocopy, you start with the original and then you make a photocopy. Whichever the case, God created men and women. God created humanity. And maybe it doesn't matter which one came first or which one came second. Actually, when we look at myths of origin within the African traditions, some of them are not very clear on who came first, whether it's the man or the woman. Some seem to like they came together. But what I also want to propose is that we are not here by accident, whether we are men or women. And being man or being woman is in God's design. Now, without faith, what we saw, conviction and an acknowledgement that there is a greater power than ourselves, there is so much that overwhelms humanity, and especially women. Personal issues, I may not go into details, but I know that any human being has got personal issues that are of concern, issues that perplex. What about family issues? Those of us who are parents, parenting, we know that there is no manual for it. And we many times will hit the wall. And family issues can be many. Could be between spouses, maybe with in-laws, maybe. And then there's also so much that overwhelms us, society issues. Who has not been hit by COVID-19? And many times when there is trouble or when there is issues of concern in the society, women take the brunt of it. World issues. Right now, there is the Ukraine situation, and as usual, in situations of war or in situations of conflict, women and children are the most vulnerable. What we could call little issues, there's really no issue which we can handle without faith, because as human beings, we are really very limited and we are very weak. It doesn't matter our position in society. It doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter. We are very limited as human beings and we need faith. This is a very common phrase, that you cannot solve the world's problems. Actually, you cannot even solve your own problems sometimes. So it's faith which keeps us going, and we leave it to God or to this power which is greater than ourselves. I read somewhere that when you say your prayer at night, and the prayer is universal, whether you are Christian, Muslim, prayer is universal. That when you have said your prayer at night, try and fall asleep. Because even if you try to solve all these issues, a lot of times you are unable. So somebody has said, leave it all to God. After all, He is going to be awake all night. Now, faith is available for all of us, for men and for women. Because faith is not material. It is not something that can be purchased. If we were to purchase it, then this issue of talking about equality could not be there. Because if you have more money, you could purchase more. Faith equalizes us. So it's not bought, it's available, and it's accessible to all of us. With faith, you can be certain. You can relax. This is easier said than done, but it is that conviction that God is in control. Faith takes care of those complex issues, daily grapples. And it's by faith that we wake up, it's by faith that we take transport, it's by faith that we even eat. And we are aware that even a meal has cost life. So with faith, those issues, the daily grapples that we have are taken care of. And how do we apply faith? There are very, very many ways we can do it, but I just want to propose a few. One of them is to seek to connect with this power that is greater than ourselves. To seek to connect with God daily, and more so in the morning. I've read somewhere that when you connect with God in the morning, it is going to assist you for the rest of the day. And morning, I know a group of women that connect with each other and with God early morning, 3 a.m. It could be difficult for all of us to do that, but simply creating time to connect with God, and in the morning, because one is fresh, there aren't too many distractions, and just to claim this blessing, which is free, that God is available for all of us. We also connect with God through being appreciative and being grateful. If we are to count our blessings, there are so many. And even when we are going through very difficult times, it could be financial, it could be sickness, it could be grief, it could be relationships that are not working, it could be that we are not even sure about tomorrow. We are not sure about this sustainable tomorrow. But if we have a spirit of appreciation and a spirit of gratitude, because how else do we find ourselves where we are if it's not that God sees it fit for us to be there? I say this very many times. A teacher, one of my teachers says or said that take a piece of paper, draw a line in the middle. And on one side, write your curses, and on the other, write your blessings. A lot of times we'll start with the curses or with the negatives. Interestingly, we run short very, very quickly. But on the side of blessings, you can't actually finish. And if God has blessed us so much, then we can have, or we have reason to have faith in Him. We are also encouraged to apply faith by being social. Have friends, have associations, because these are perhaps what remains when everything else is not there. Friends, we invest in them, and a lot of times when you hit rock, it is a friend who will be there for you. Associations. I know there is a lot of controversy about chama, but for some people, chama is where they get life. How about those small Christian communities, the Jumuiya, the prayer cells, maybe an alumni association? This is how we apply our faith, because we count our blessings, we count our connections, and we strengthen them. Maybe this is easier said than done, that we can connect with God through nature. Nature, a walk maybe, or sometimes even just gazing at the sky in the night. Actually, when you gaze at the sky, then even if you are not very convinced about issues of God, you are left to wonder, you are left to marvel at how God is super in creation. Because even if we have doubts about the existence of God, there's so much in nature that reminds us that God is there. And this is the nature that we need to take care of. As we speak, there has been a big meeting here in Nairobi, UNEP. A few months ago, there was the big meeting again in Europe, talking about issues of environment and how we need to sustain it. Somebody has observed that cleanliness and godliness go together. Looks very simple, but if we maintain simple things like cleanliness, then we can limit some of the health hazards, and we can be assured of a better tomorrow for ourselves and even for our children. Another way we can apply faith is just to be a volunteer. Probably there's an activity that needs attention, that needs somebody to do something, and if we are available, that can contribute towards a better society. As I finish, I am not a biblical scholar, but I'm always amazed at the book of 2 Kings 5. The main idea in this text is the healing of. He's described as a man of good standing in the society. He had won many battles, but he had an issue, and this was sickness. And how does his healing come about? It comes about through a small captive girl. Naaman's armies had gone out there and they had come home with a small girl whose name we are not even given. But I consider that this is a very good example of faith in Naaman, in the little girl, in Naaman's wife, and all the characters that are mentioned in this episode. The little girl had come to this home and was working with Mrs. Naaman. And she says, if only the master could go to where I came from, he would be healed. I mean, it takes faith and it takes courage for a little girl to talk to her master or her employer. Mrs. Naaman takes it up. Again, we see a degree of faith here. And she talks to Naaman and says, you know, this little girl has said that you could get healing if you went to her country. While we consider that the little girl was generous with her information, I think it's faith. Again, you could call it desperation perhaps, but there must be an element of faith for Naaman's wife to believe this little girl. And when she talks to Naaman, he also takes it up. And he goes to this land. There are many issues there in between, but that is not my focus for the purpose of the discussion that we are having today. Is that Naaman obeys and even obeys his servants. We're talking about equality, gender equity or gender equality. Look at this incident. It is men and women that are working together. Naaman listened and traveled to this far land. He goes with his servants, I believe, who were men, and they're the ones who persuade him that Naaman, take it. Consider this proposal, this suggestion, and let's see whether you will be healed. When one considers that Naaman, a great man, plunges himself into what they were calling a dirty river, a small river, 7 times, that is an act of faith. Which says to us then that faith is simple, or a simple faith can do great things. So, in general or overall, what I'd like us to consider, and especially as women, is that we need faith so that we can overcome, or so that we can respond to some of the gender stereotypes and the gender biases. What we also see is that faith is essential in our lives. Faith can bring about healing. Healing of self and healing of others and healing of the community. And all in all, as we look to tomorrow, let us cultivate some faith. Because tomorrow we want it to be better for our children, for ourselves. We want a better environment. We want a better world. And women have a great role to play in this. But of course, it cannot be done by women alone. We need to pull together with men. Thank you.